The invitation was meant to humiliate him. When the gold embossed envelope arrived at Rashid Khan's tiny rented apartment, he thought it had to be a mistake. Men like him, 36 years old, widowed, working double shifts as a private driver, didn't get invited to five-star charity galas hosted by billionaires. He almost threw it away. But at the bottom of the card was a handwritten line. Special guest of the CEO. Don't be late. Rashid stared at those words while his 8-year-old daughter, Asa, colored beside him on the floor. Their apartment smelled faintly of engine oil from his uniform jacket hanging near the window. He hadn't told her how the other drivers laughed at him that morning when he showed them the invitation. Maybe they need someone to park cars, one had joked. Or maybe the boss wants to show what success doesn't look like, another had added. The CEO hosting the event was Farhan Qureshi, a powerful business magnate known for sharp suits and sharper words. Rashid worked for one of Farhan's subsidiaries, occasionally driving executives to meetings. He had seen how men shrank under Farhan's cold stare. So why would a man like that invite him? He decided not to go. But that night, Asa found the envelope in the trash. Abu, what's this? She asked, her eyes wide. You're invited somewhere fancy. It's nothing, he replied softly. Just a joke. Asa looked at him the way only children can, without judgment, only belief. You always tell me we don't hide from jokes. We show them who we are. Her words struck deeper than she knew. For years, Rashid had hidden his past. Before becoming a driver, he had been an engineer. He had graduated top of his class. But when his wife fell ill, hospital bills swallowed his savings. He sold his car, then his house. After she passed, he took the first job he could find, driving. Pride had no place when your child needed school fees. He looked at Asa and made a decision. We'll go, he said. The night of the gala, the grand ballroom glittered like a palace. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above guests dressed in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Cameras flashed. When Rashid stepped out of a modest rideshare, wearing his only suit, slightly outdated but carefully pressed, whispers began instantly. Is he staff? Did someone invite him by mistake? A few executives recognized him. That's the driver, someone muttered, barely hiding a smirk. Farhan Qureshi stood near the stage, greeting politicians and investors. When he spotted Rashid entering the hall, a faint smile curved on his lips, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ah, Farhan said loudly, drawing attention. You made it. The music softened as heads turned. Rashid felt heat creep up his neck, but he straightened his shoulders. He wasn't here for them. He was here for his daughter, who had insisted on polishing his shoes herself. Thank you for the invitation, sir, Rashid said calmly. Farhan gestured to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's theme is, From Struggle to Success. I thought it would be inspirational to invite someone who represents struggle. Soft laughter rippled across the room. Rashid understood then. He was the punchline. For a brief second, humiliation threatened to crush him. He imagined leaving, disappearing into the night. But then he remembered Asa's words. Don't hide. Farhan continued, Rashid here drives for one of our companies. Hardworking man. Very dedicated. The tone suggested that was all he would ever be. Suddenly, an elderly board member named Mr. Rahman leaned toward Farhan and whispered something. Farhan frowned. What? He asked. Mr. Rahman didn't whisper the second time. Is this the same Rashid Khan who designed the early prototype for the Qureshi logistics routing system? The room fell quiet. Farhan's expression shifted. That system was developed years ago. Yes, Mr. Rahman said, by a young engineer who declined a promotion after a family emergency. I remember because I approved the bonus myself. All eyes turned back to Rashid. Farhan blinked. You were, in engineering. Rashid hesitated. He hadn't spoken about that part of his life in years. Yes, sir. A long time ago. Murmurs spread. The routing system Mr. Rahman mentioned had saved the company millions, optimizing fuel usage across fleets nationwide. It was one of Farhan's flagship success stories. You never said anything, Farhan said, his voice losing its earlier mockery. Rashid answered quietly, you never asked. Silence deepened. Farhan motioned toward the stage. Why don't you tell us your story? Was it another setup? Another joke? But something in the room had changed. The laughter was gone. Rashid walked to the microphone. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice, when it came, was steady. I didn't plan to become a driver, he began. I planned to build things. Systems. Solutions. He glanced around the glittering hall. But life doesn't always follow plans. He spoke of long nights at hospitals. of selling his dreams piece by piece to pay medical bills, of holding his wife's hand when doctors said there was nothing more they could do. The room listened. I chose to drive because it was honest work. It fed my daughter. And I learned something important sitting behind the wheel. He paused. Titles change. Salaries change. Respect shouldn't. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. Rashid continued, when you sit in the driver's seat, you hear everything. Business strategies. Big ideas. Complaints about traffic. But you also see something else. His gaze found Farhan's. You see how people treat those they think don't matter. The words hung heavy in the air. Farhan shifted uncomfortably. I'm not ashamed of being a driver, Rashid said. I'm proud I could keep going when everything else fell apart. If struggle is tonight's theme, then yes, invite people like me. But not as jokes. Invite them because resilience builds companies more than comfort ever will. When he finished, there was no immediate applause. Then Mr. Rahman stood. He clapped once. Then again. Soon the entire ballroom erupted into applause, loud, sincere, unstoppable. Farhan Qureshi stood frozen for a moment before joining in. But something in his face had changed too. Later that evening, as guests approached Rashid, not to mock but to shake his hand, Farhan requested a private conversation. In a quiet corner of the balcony overlooking the city lights, Farhan spoke first. I owe you an apology. Rashid said nothing. Farhan exhaled. When I invited you, I wanted to make a point about rising above. I thought showing contrast would inspire donors. He shook his head. Instead, you exposed something ugly in me. Rashid looked at the skyline. We all carry blind spots, sir. Farhan was silent for a long moment. I've been restructuring our tech division, he finally said. We need someone who understands both the system and the people who run it. He looked directly at Rashid. I'd like to offer you a position. Lead operations strategist. It was a role far beyond driving. It meant returning to engineering. Returning to the world he had buried. And if I refuse? Rashid asked. Farhan nodded slowly. Then I will still be grateful you came tonight. Rashid thought of Asa. Of school fees. Of dreams paused but not dead. I'll accept, he said. On one condition. Farhan raised an eyebrow. No employee in your companies is ever invited as a joke again. A faint smile crossed Farhan's face. Deal. Months later, Rashid no longer drove executives, he led teams. But he kept his old driver's badge framed in his office as a reminder. On his first day in the new role, he gathered staff, engineers, drivers, assistants alike. There are no small roles here, he told them. Only small respect. And we're done with that. Productivity rose. Morale soared. Word spread about the CEO who changed, and the driver who reminded him how. One evening, Rashid picked up Asa from school in a company car assigned to him. She climbed in, eyes sparkling. Did they laugh at you? She asked. He smiled. No. What happened? They listened. Asa grinned. See, I told you. As they drove home, Rashid realized something powerful. He hadn't gone to prove them wrong. He had gone to prove himself right. The invitation meant to humiliate him became the doorway back to his purpose. But more importantly, it reminded an entire room full of powerful people that dignity isn't measured by job titles or tailored suits. Sometimes, the person you invite as a joke is the one who teaches you the most serious lesson of your life. And sometimes, all it takes to stun a room is showing up.